Hello to all my chicklet readers out there. Thanks so much for joining me. I have a super fun treat today. So my editor, Catherine Payne, is on here with me, and we are going to talk about all the things that I do wrong as an author. We've done this before, and it's actually so much fun for you guys. A little background before Catherine kind of comes in. So Catherine and I have literally been together from the beginning. She's like my book wife.
Book one.
Yes, book one. You were cutting your teeth on editing when
Mm-hmm.
I desperately needed you for my first book, and you came in, and I loved what you did. And so you've literally seen every single book I've published and like worked on it, whether you've done developmental edits or line edits or had someone in your company you do copy edits. All of my books go through Catherine. So I think there's no human on this world that knows my weaknesses as well as she does.
Not quite as many weaknesses as you think you have, I promise.
or she's just being kind. And I've written a lot of books now, so I think I'm getting into a flow here. But to celebrate Coffee Shops Girls launch, I can't even talk. 2020 is literally
It's
affecting.
okay. 2020,
Right.
we're trudging forward, and so we're talking.
I feel like you can
talking's just a secondary thing.
Yeah, it's like I think you can just say hashtag 2020 at this point, and everything's forgiven. Everyone's like, yeah, we can. Oh, that's awesome. So basically, to celebrate the launch of Coffee Shop Girl, that came better, Catherine is going to talk to us about what it was like to edit the manuscript, and especially because this is sort of a special book, and that's my first actual full contemporary romance novel. So I've actually poured through probably 50 to 100 contemporary romance novels to really study the genre, the structure, what people want. And then I'm trying to embody that in the Coffee Shop series, and Coffee Shop Girl launches that. So it's really exciting to get her thoughts on that, because she's used to more of my girl power chick lit kind of stuff where the men are very much a figure in the background, although present. And now I'm trying to straddle that line of still have girl power and chick lit, but also bring in that.
There's lots of girl power, you guys. You're gonna love it.
Yes, there is really. Oh, I love Bethany. She's the embodiment of girl power, and she loves lipstick, which I don't. So it was kind of a hard line to straddle, that still present girl power, but hit that romance that we all secretly just pine for. So, Catherine, tell us what you thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like you were saying, it was the first foray into full-on contemporary romance, which I think I actually didn't really know going into it. I was reading through, expecting another chick lit novel, and then we get to must be chapter 2 or 3, and suddenly we're in a guy's point of view, and I'm like, what is going on here? What are we doing?
That's awesome. I didn't even think to warn you. Oh, by the way, I've got a man's POV here.
And then I skimmed through it, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're good. And of course, you hit the romance notes really, really brilliantly, and it was excellent.
Excellent. That's awesome. I literally didn't think of that until you just said this moment. Like, yeah, I probably should have given you a warning. Hey, plot structure is going to be very different.
But it's okay, because it was that dual point of view thing. We see the world through both Bethany and Maverick's eyes. I was able to just zero in on that right away.
Which is interesting as an author, because I have found through all of the contemporary romance I've read that there is a very exciting element of seeing the woman through the man's eyes, mm-hmm. Right? Because really, how many times have you wanted to know what your husband was thinking about you, or really thought, and like, because sometimes their brains just don't work, right? Just like ours. But
and you ask, like, what are you thinking, or what do you think about this? And then they just give you this blank stare, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
My husband once asked me, I was talking about something, he's like, can you put this in bullet points and give it to me in a PowerPoint? And he was totally serious. And I was like, are you kidding? He's like, that would help so much. I was like, oh my gosh, our brains are so different. But because of that, it was daunting to write Maverick's point of view, because I was like, the other thing that sucks about romance is the men are really just women, right? So you have these men that are reading the women's minds and like mm-hmm. giving them love and support and affection at all these times where I'm like, I only know a woman would know to say that. Like no man that I know like would know to say that.
Or in some, you go way to the other side of the spectrum and you read it and you're like, this is not a healthy dynamic. Oh, honey, do you need help? Do you need to get away from this man?
Yes, exactly. So it was daunting to write Maverick. So actually what I did was I'd be writing and I'd text my husband or I'd look up and be like, okay, here's a scenario. This is what's happening. What's the first thing in your brain? And he would tell me, and I'm like, every time I'd be like, seriously, that's it. That's what let's go through that. I mean, this is like a clean romance, Jordan. So.
It played really well on the page. You straddled that line of working with the guy's brain, but also, keeping it where you wanted it.
And so one thing that every author struggles with, and I am no exception, is we have words and phrases that we're deeply in love with. And we don't realize how much we use them, or we think, oh, I haven't used that yet, this book. And there's like 20 instances preceding it, right? So
that was actually one of the very earliest, like within, I think, the second or third chapter in the book, there was a really distinctive phrase. I'm trying to see if I can remember quite what it was. It was someone saying that this coffee shop should burn to the ground. and
it was the employee.
In the very first chapter, someone says that to Bethany, to the main character, or to the female lead. And then, but Maverick hasn't come into the shop yet. He didn't hear this said. And then he thinks internally, oh, this shop should burn to the ground. And when we get in his first chapter, and I'm like, I feel like this is a little too distinctive to use both places. So how about we pick one?
That was actually intentional.
Oh, was it?
So this is what happens. I always think I'm clever, and you always bring me down, right? Like yes, Kate, you're clever, but you're not a special squirrel. So I thought, oh, wouldn't that be like funny if Maverick thinks the same thing that this employee that like basically quits like on the spot because of the coffee shop that Bethany's running such a mess. Wouldn't that be funny if he thought it? So I put that, but then I'm like, I think I did that somewhere else, so it's probably just best if you took that out.
just do it the one thing. And with those sorts of things, how often you can get away with using a phrase, it depends on a lot of things, but one of them is how distinctive it is. And I don't know, maybe living in the very basically swampland world of South Carolina, I just don't think of things burning to the ground because we hardly ever have fires.
Oh, and like Colorado is so on fire. I have a fire that I'm 10 miles away from the mandatory evac line on the west and like 15 on the east. So everything burns to the ground. That's a really great interest. That's a point.
Do you need to get out of there?
Are you safe? Nah, I'm safe right now. We don't have to leave yet. So then that brings in, so that's one reason I love Catherine so much is she'll just like bring me down the notch I need to, like, so, because really we authors are too clever by half and it's distracting, right, to the reader, because really Catherine is here to protect the reader and their experience, so that I pay you to make sure that the reader is having the best experience possible in reading my books, and that's part of how you do it. And for those of you out here that don't really know how this process works, basically what happens is I get the book as perfect as I think I can possibly get it. And I do that through beta readers and sensitivity readers and people reading it and hashing it apart, and I'm fixing it. So it takes me about 4 drafts to get there now. In my early career, it took me about 10, but I've honed my system to about 4. For some chick lit, I can do it in 3. And then I send it to Catherine, and you can tell a little more about what you do briefly, but after I get it back from Catherine, then I have this Microsoft Word document that's just filled with lines. It's like she bleeds on the computer for me. And if any of you are familiar with track changes in Microsoft Word, you can go through and like accept the changes or reject them. But Catherine and I have worked together for so long now that I literally just hit accept all changes. I just take everything that she's done And then
And then
I'll
you read through the book very carefully, just to make sure.
Yes, of course. And then I read back through after because it's just too distracting with all the changes. And if there's something I really wanted to keep that you took out, I would remember. But most of the time I'm like, did I write that? Oh, Catherine must have fixed it. This is way too good. So that's sort of what the process looks like. And then after that, I send it to another editor. And typically we work with Stephanie, and Stephanie does the proofreading. So that's kind of the basic process of editing for this. But Catherine, when you're actually doing the line edits, like what are you looking for? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm going through, I'm reading for anything that doesn't feel like it quite flows, anything that stands out as something that might be distracting for the reader, or things that are small inconsistencies. If there's a larger inconsistency, then I'll leave a comment on that. But if it's just a small thing, I'll usually just figure out which one it should be and change it.
Yeah.
If there's like an eye color thing or that sort of thing.
There's always an eye color thing. I cannot keep my characters' eye color straight. Like I've had to go back after publishing books and fix eye colors. Like I'm just like beyond it. You will even like Google stuff to verify something, or you'll say, oh, I think I once used the word massage parlor, and you're like, this has connotations that mean something else. You might want to.
Yes, I always leave comments if I think that something just might not quite read right for a number of reasons.
How did I not see that? I'm so happy I've gathered. I feel so stupid every time. Like, oh, what? I can't even think of that.
And, I just trim out extra words sometimes I think it's very easy for a writer to, when they're describing something, to sort of describe the same thing twice, just in a slightly different way. But very close together in a way that feels repetitive. And so I think, when I'm line editing, the drafts are always shorter when I send them back, because I've trimmed out a lot of the excess stuff and the repetitive stuff. Sometimes I feel like I end up trimming like 5,000 or 6,000 words out of it. But
it's going on a diet. I was like, it's gonna go see Catherine and go on a diet.
just a little nipping and tucking, nothing dramatic. Just go through, read the whole book for it, depending on what Katie prefers and asks me to do. I read through it either once or sometimes twice. With this book, it was just the once, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's a good, quick, fun read for sure. And I think it's worth noting that at this point, taken my whole career in view, I've written over 50 books, right? So I'm certainly not a novice at this point, and I've had many facets to my career, whether I'm ghostwriting nonfiction books for $20,000, or I'm doing chick lit or fantasy or whatever it is that I'm getting into. I still need you, right? So I, like, even with all the experience and the amount of money people will pay me to work for them, I still desperately need an editor. And I think that
this is the thing, great books are never written in a vacuum. And like you were saying, even before it comes to me, you have hashed it out with beta readers and sensitivity readers. And then, I work on it, and then we send it to Stephanie, and even editors who are also authors, people will ask them, oh, do you edit your own books? And they say, no, I most assuredly do not. Someone else has to do that, because, you do all of the same things in your own book. There are just, that you fix in other people's books. There are just some things that you're not going to catch. Such as eye color, or such as the fact that the word smile is used 15 times in 2 pages.
Yeah, because smiles and eyes are like go-to fallback. Like, oh, his eyes crinkled, or his eyes like darted. Like darting eyes are huge. Or skating is one I'm seeing a lot in romance now. The eyes skate over something. I tend to fall back on the eyes when I'm trying to express an emotion instead of using something else, and you kind of help call me out on that. I've gotten better, but you do help me find those instances where I overuse something in the pursuit of explaining, like showing an emotion, basically. Yeah, so I think that's encouragement for anyone, because a lot of people that follow me like write themselves. They're either authors or just write for fun or want to, but this kind of process is intimidating to them. And I think people should know that you never arrive at a place where you're doing this by yourself, right? Like I would never do this without a team.
You know, even someone who's been writing for 40 years and has hit the New York Times bestseller list 18 times, they still have a whole team of editors and a whole team of people that they work through it with, because there are always things we don't see.
Yeah, thank heavens for teams, right? I think it's awesome. Well, thank you for all your work and for coming to kind of chat with us about it today. It's always kind of fun to get a behind the scenes preview on what's going on, especially when we're starting a new series in a new genre like Bethany does with the coffee shop series. So
I'm so excited about the rest of the series.
I know you'll be getting the next one, which is Lizbeth. Her book is named Lovesick. She's given me a bit of an issue. She's throwing some fits, but we're gonna figure it out. She's a stubborn redhead, that's for sure.
I didn't realize it was about Lizbeth. I cannot wait to read this.
Every sister gets a book. So Bethany's the first, Lizbeth is the second, and Ellie is the third.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
you guys are going to love these characters.
No, they're so fun. They're so fun. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go because it's 2020 and we have things to go fix that are being destroyed. But thanks for being here again, and we will hopefully see you soon.
All right. Thanks so much.